Hello, hello, hello. This is Adrienne in Tech, and I'm here to talk to you about short links. This is actually one of my favorite topics because it is so important, and I highly recommend that you incorporate short links in your everyday life, not even in just work and business, but also in your personal life too. It's going to save you so much time, so much effort, so much energy, and you're actually going to step into solving problems before you know have problems, which is not necessarily the most lauded thing, but it will be the most important thing for long-term growth. So let's talk about what short links are, right? So here's the thing. So you have short links. You have your regular URLs, right? Regular URLs direct you from one place to another. And that's something we all use every single day, and that's awesome. So the only thing is that URLs they're extremely specific. So they only direct you to one location because that's what their job is. But the thing is that once information moves from one URL to a different URL, it doesn't update you and let you know, hey, actually this information has moved. We're actually in a different place now. No, it's going to stay the same, right? That link never changes. That link exists in perpetuity. And that's fine. But when link updates, and as things often do, you're working or moving or, doing some type of, business work, and links will change, right? And that's the thing, is that unfortunately static links aren't very useful in today's day and age, right? For lots of reasons, but mainly because they're long, they're bulky, they're descriptive, which is helpful, but they're not always the best, most agile way to do anything on the internet. So let's talk about this. Solution: short links. So what is a short link? We have two different types of short links. So the first type of short link is a static short link, and that's your typical thing that you've seen. In fact, I'll show you an example of a short link. All right, I found one. So this is on LinkedIn. This is Ani Filipova. I don't know who she is, but awesome. Here is the example of a static short link. So this is a LinkedIn short link. LinkedIn has their own processor or way of actually taking long URLs and turning them into short URLs. And that's super helpful for lots of reasons. LinkedIn is a very text heavy site, and you can't have all these links shown out everywhere because it's going to just clog up everything and no one's going to be able to read anything. So they have their own short link generator that they create, and it happens automatically when you share enough links to a LinkedIn post. And so this link goes specifically to this link, whatever she's linked to. And can you count how many times I said link in this video? And once this happens, it'll direct you from their server to the URL. So that's all well and good, except let's say she has what is this? These articles, I don't know what they are. Articles, videos, whatever they are. Let's say this Sir Ken Robinson decides to change where this content lives. So now Ani has linked to this resource, but if Sir Ken Robinson decides to change where that resource lives, this link will now break. And so ultimately that's not good because now all of her links are not going to work, right? So now we've created this like void in the internet system that isn't filled, right? And so it's going to have a 404 when you link to it if Sir Ken Robinson decides to change where this information it lives. But let's say Ani let's say Sir Ken Robinson decides to send Ani the link to his content using a short link. Then once that happens, when she shares that link, this link will be different, but it will automatically redirect to wherever Ken Robinson decides to move this content. And it's super important to have. So even now, as I'm creating this YouTube channel and showing different things that I like to talk about, which is tech mostly, even I'm creating bit.lys, because that's what I use, to have people directed to the proper vid. So they can share the YouTube URL, but if they share the bit.ly instead, no matter where that content moves, that content will stay the same and everyone will be able to find it. So that's something that I'm going to be taking on as my own personal charge, so that as things move around, as typically they do, people will find them. And that's why you should use short links. So that's short links in a nutshell, right? These are your typical short links. They don't change on the back end, and they will break if something changes. All right, so that's your static short link. Now let's talk about my favorite, redirectable short links. All right. So what is this about? Why should you use redirectable short links? So I just talked about a little bit why you should that, right? Because let's say someone shares your information or something that you've written or something that you've created, and you change or move that content out. Now that the person shared all your content, they're actually sharing out the wrong link because that content doesn't live there anymore. They're sharing something with a very old address. So you should use short links for the reason I said before, which is you want to make sure that anyone can find what you've shared without having to have the new address. So the short link stays the same. We love that. No matter what is happening on the back end with the URL, the main short link stays the same. And you can update that at the back end at any time. We love that. And I use a tool like Bitly. Let's show an example of that. All right, so this is the back end of my Bitly, which I use very sparingly, but I use it nonetheless. And I have the plan where you can actually change, or you can add short links, but you can also redirect a certain number of short links per month. And that's the plan that I have. It's pretty inexpensive and definitely worth it though. So here's some examples of this. So let's go down to, here's a good one actually. I'll show you this document that I have, right? So this right here is actually a Slack workflow that I created that helps you take any types of, awesome messages that you get in Slack and send them to a canvas within Slack. And the purpose of that is so that when the time comes to have those conversations about your impact, then you can easily pull that up and it's right in a canvas for you, right? So this link goes to Gumroad right now, right? Because that's where this file lives. But if I were to change my shop to go from Gumroad to, WordPress or, whatever any other sites there are for that, then this link would break, right? As it is, it would break. So we don't want that. So what I can always do, because I have this type of plan, is I can go in and edit it. And here's the redirect link, and I can change where this goes. All right. I guess, I have 5 redirects per month, which is fine. That's enough because you won't be redirecting all the time, unless for some reason something big happens and you just make a huge change, which is fine. You can just upgrade for that month and then downgrade later. So I can always change the destination here. So no matter where this link lives, it's always going to redirect to the right resource, and that's what we want, right? And I can edit the back half too, but we don't want to do that. That's actually what you don't want to do. So this is really great that you can update the destination URL. And so this is helpful for whatever you have going on, whether it's resumes. I use this for resumes as well. I have had, if you're like me and you've had enough resumes to last you a lifetime, you can always use the same URL to send people to for your resume, and it'll always be updated because you're always updating the back end to the correct resume. All right. So that's super, super helpful. So now that we've talked about that, let's go over to some more examples. Now, why should you take the time to actually go through and use short links? Lots of reasons. Number one, first of all, this is really the reason why people don't use short links as much, is because it takes time to set up. And you have to remember where things are, and that can be a hassle. But like I said before, you can use this for your personal life. You can use it for, your calendars, resumes. You can use it for events. You can use it for important documentation. So let's say, for example, your parents have documentation about their trust, their wills, or whatever it is, right? Let's say you have all of that and you need to find it, but they change things every 10 years and you're not exactly where it is. All you have to do is create a short link for this. Creating a short link means that as long as you change the back half of it, you can make sure it's updated all the time. For work, I use this for everything. So, documents, hubs, internal hubs, links to things, for example, like links to meetings, links to calendars, links to documents especially, etc. And then of course our business marketing links, client support, you can use them for your internal team as well. And then checkout cards is actually a super important reason to use short links. So here's some use cases for that. Now let's get into a quick and easy way for you to track what these short links are, because once you start creating them, you do end up generating a list. So I'll show you right now a simple way that I actually use to keep track of all my short links. All right, so here's an example of what short links can look like in terms of management of them. And what I've done is I created a spreadsheet where I keep track of what my short links are. I have some different ways that you can use them in terms of a team setting, so you can track who the owner is for each link, because that person would have access to the source URL. But in this case, it's just me. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you that I have all of these links here. They all have bit.lys or tiny URLs attached to them, and the source content here as well. Now, one thing that's super important is to keep track of what type of document it is or what type of file it is. I haven't done this always because I just forget sometimes, but you can easily just add in that, oh, this is a website, this is a doc, this is a Slack link, Figma link, etc., right? And then you can add tags. So let's say this is for my company. We're going to go ahead and, oh, I don't have that on here, but I could just type in a new thing. Let's say it's career, right? And then access. This is super important because sometimes you don't know whether or not the links that you're linking to are internal only links, so things that will only work within a certain environment, or whether or not they're public facing. And so these are all public facing links. So I'm tapping external here. For example, this one right here is a doc. Let me scroll over just a tad. So this particular short link, it's actually connected to a doc, right? Which is where I've kept all of my LinkedIn posts. And I kept them internally because I wanted to make sure to keep track of that content. So I had it here, it's in content, and then it's actually internal. So that means that no matter what this link is, this bit.ly, whoever has access to it would need to have access to, which I did not create for this because it's already linked here. But if I wanted to create a bit.ly for this, then only the people who have access to this document would have access to this link, okay? So long story short, I have a short link spreadsheet. You can use this spreadsheet. It's in Gumroad. I'll drop the link in the description below. But if you have any questions about it, it is free. It's just a super helpful tool to help you keep track of your short links. It is so helpful and useful. For example, I'll give you an example of this actually in real time, because what I have here is I created a link for calls, right? So I have calls for my business and then also calls for people who want to connect with me personally. And for the Connect With Me meeting, which is what I use for this, I use Google Calendar because it comes with my Workspace subscription. And I just haven't changed it. It's not something I love per se, but I haven't changed it, right? But I have changed my business discovery calls to go from Google Calendars to Calendly. Now, super helpful because the bit.ly remains the same, right? No matter what I change on the back end, I don't need to go back through and figure out, oh my God, where have I sent this to a client for them to schedule with me? Where have I sent this to, someone who is curious about my business? That link is not going to break. Now, anytime if I change this on the back end, it's going to remain the same on the front end, and I won't have to worry about broken links, a trail of broken links behind me where people are trying to get in contact with me that they can't get in contact with me. So long story short, use short links. They're super important. Here's a template that you can use. It's in the Gumroad link below. Right now it's on Gumroad. It might change. So it's in the link below. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to drop a comment and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.